only 3 more rounds to go for the 2013 FF1M Championship, and 6 drivers are still in with a chance of the championship. From Romain Grosjean, leading on 81 points, all the way down to 6th place Sergio Perez on 61 points. With 36 points up for grabs, this is going to be a riot. The first of those final 3 races comes to you from the magnificent Suzuka Circuit, located near Nagoya in Japan, somewhere in the middle of a theme park. An 18-turn spectacular circuit. Interestingly enough, none of those 6 championship contenders won at Singapore last time. Robert Kubica took a surprise win, although from pole position, led the race very brilliantly, lost it to Romain Grosjean, who then suffered a very unfortunate technical problem just 5 laps to go, and that gave Robert Kubica his first win since 2008. There's the magnificent Suzuka Circuit, with frighteningly fast corners such as the S's, 130R, and the devilishly tricky Degner curve, located just before the crossover. Overtaking is very difficult here, the main opportunity going into the tight chicane near the end of the lap. Last season's winner was Lewis Hamilton, who won despite a controversial collision with the Sean Connery Motors, now Gajera, of Nico Rosberg. Robert Kubica is proving himself to be a bit of a disruptor in amongst the championship battle, and he's done it once again, pinching pole position by a mere 24 thousandths of a second from Kimi Raikkonen. Third place is Nico Hülkenberg, who's been suffering some torrid reliability of late. 5 retirements in the past 6 races. Romain Grosjean, championship leader, in 4th position. He's 2 places behind Kimi Raikkonen, who is his nearest challenger. The next one, Jean-Eric Vergne, 3rd in the championship, 7th on the grid. Could be worse. Fernando Alonso is down in 8th. He's got a 19-point deficit over Romain Grosjean, so his race will be a little bit tricky. All Willow's 7th row. And Giro van der Garde improves from his 20th, although up to 19th, so not that much of an improvement. And Sam Bird is off the back row, now taken by the customary Pedersens. It's business as usual for them. They'll be hoping for better luck next time. More on that later, because there's been some interesting developments in next season's driver market. I'll talk you through a lot of those during the race. So, long hold, and it's go immediately. No need for the lights, and it looks like it's a good start from Kimi Raikkonen on 2nd on the grid, going around turn 1, and he swoops round the outside into the lead. Kubica's trying to do something about it through turn 2, but Raikkonen's got the inside line into turn 3. Kubica's still hanging on. Is he going to hold on to the lead? They're still side by side as they go through the S's. Kubica really wants that lead, but so does Kimi Raikkonen. And they're still side by side as they go through the S's into Dunlop, and it looks like Kubica has just about managed to wrestle the lead back from Kimi Raikkonen. Good stuff, Robert. He's on an absolute roll at the moment, having taken pole position at Singapore, won there, and he also set the fastest lap in the Italian Grand Prix as well. Everyone's expected to do 2 stops. It'd be interesting to see who pits first, takes the new tyres advantage, or whether going longer is the correct strategy. It's 18 laps for Robert Kubica at the moment, and at the moment it seems as if Kimi Raikkonen has got the faster car. Now let's see what happens if we go down the back straight. Raikkonen look up on the inside going into 130R, and he's alongside and he's already ahead before they turn into the corner. Kimi Raikkonen takes the lead, eventually. Now braking hard for the tight chicane, the Casio triangle, clattering over the curbs, some of them. It looks like they've all got through the first lap very safely. By the way, I should have mentioned that Vettel is 6th. He started 6th on the grid, and he has maintained that position as they go through the first lap. It looks like it's the 2 Axelites that are side by side. Button's having a go at Alonso into the first corner. Alonso shutting the door, quite rightly, because he is well ahead in the Drivers' Championship, and there wasn't really a car alongside him. He had the edge. Let's say he had the edge. Valtteri Bottas looking to make a move on one of the Willows, going into 130R. The Willows has seen him, thankfully, otherwise that would have been a massive crash. And Bottas has taken the position away from, I believe it was Daniel Ricciardo, and Ricciardo has now got Pastor Maldonado right behind him, the other shake and bake driver. Due to move on. Oh, there's a blown engine. Is it Kubica already? Robert Kubica has blown up already. Already lost second position to Grosjean, and Hülkenberg moves up into third. So these Renault engines, although they've become a lot more powerful as the season has progressed, they've also become a heck of a lot more unreliable. I bet they'll be thankful, Andrew F1 and Mitchell, when the new engines come in next season. Vettel is having a look at Perez going into the 130R, and he's got 4th position. Vettel needing a bit of a kickstart. He's only 10 points behind Grosjean in the championship, but it's pretty clear that the Tornado and Gajera are the better car. Vettel seemingly outdriving his shake and bake and outperforming it. He's had a series of very good results, including 2 wins, one in China and the other one in Nürburgring, and a string of decent points finishes as well. Austria being his weak race, finishing down in 8th. This is Verne versus Alonso going into the 130R. That is 6th position for Alonso. So, one of the Tornadoes is doing quite well up in 2nd, but the other one seems to be dropping back a bit. Verne didn't have a particularly good Singapore race, pitting too early and struggling on his older tyres before going out in a bizarre incident with Paul Di Resta's GRM. As we have a look at Pastor Maldonado, going through the 130R, and I think it's Rosberg actually, not Ricciardo, that he's battling with. But the man on the move is Fernando Alonso. He's right up the back of Perez now, having got past Verne. So it looks like, and he's got him. Alonso up into 5th position. Now, can he do anything about Sebastian Vettel? Alonso maybe 19 points behind Grosjean in the championship, but he has got a bit of a quick car underneath him. And testimony to that, Button is up in 8th. How far behind Verne is Button? Only half a second, so both Exolites doing quite well at the moment. We'll see how that plays out later in the race, after the 2 stops. Hülkenberg versus Vettel now going into the spoon curve. That's not really an overtaking spot. And Vettel, sensible, hanging back. Look at Alonso, he's closed up the gap quite a lot. And now Vettel, he's going to have to make his move, and he's doing so. Going into the 130R, Vettel takes 3rd position in the shake and bake. Scorer of many points this season for the team, 69 of them. In fact, that's not correct, 71 of them, and Maldonado himself has got quite considerably less than that. Kimi Raikkonen into the pits, so he's the first one to blink for his first stop, 7.9 seconds, as Alonso comes into the pits as well. So Raikkonen and Alonso taking what appears to be the same strategy. Raikkonen took 23 laps of fuel, Alonso will take 22 laps, so almost identical strategies for 2 of the 6 championship contenders. And that's a much quicker stop for Alonso than it was for the Gajera. 6.1 seconds. That's a good stop. Now we have a look at Nico Hülkenberg going into the chicane. He's due in the pits this lap and locking up, and that's probably how they come into the pits. I blame the game for that. I imagine Whiteley would be getting quite excited at the prospect of a bizarre mistake. Oh, he'd go. And fairly accurate pit boxes. There's an orange Arrows, there's a Sauber, and a Jaguar. So this is clearly from the 2001 variant, when it was released for GP4. 7.9 seconds is the stop for Hülkenberg. He's taken on a bit more fuel, 24 laps. So 23, that should take him to lap 41. So Hülkenberg going for the long game. And he's already behind Alonso. So those new tyres working quite well for the Spaniard. who is going to be driving for Willows next season, essentially rejoining the team he drove for last season. Alonso and Rosberg, that's going to be a very good team, as Alonso makes his move on Alguersuari. That's for 6th position. Alguersuari yet to stop. Speaking of stopping, Vettel is into the pits, as is Grosjean. So, the Tornado and the Shake and Bake coming into the pits. Now, Vettel could do Grosjean's rivals a favour by blocking him, but he wasn't within range. So Grosjean exits the pits, and Vettel will do so shortly afterwards. 8.7, not a particularly quick stop considering that of Alonso. I think that's Alonso that's just gone past, or is that Button? It must be Alonso. So that's not worked out at all well as the two Mitchells go into combat. These two will remain with the Mitchell team next season, Hülkenberg and Alguersuari, as Nico Rosberg comes into the pits. And that will be Vettel having a look at Alguersuari for 7th position going into the spoon curve. Is he close enough? He is close enough. Alguersuari giving him the space. Now Vettel better be careful because he's got Button right behind him. I'm not sure if Button's made a pit stop. He might well have done already, in which case that's worked out very nicely for the two Excelites. Perez is coming into the pits, I believe. Yes, he is. And incredible, Vettel didn't actually get in front. This is costing him... Whoa! And he's jumped the chicane. And as Alguersuari come into the pits, I believe he is, and now that's put Vettel under threat from Button. Button could do his teammate a big favour if he gets past him. Button has indeed made his pit stop, and Perez nearly shunts into the pair of them as he exits the pits. So, Perez rejoins behind Vettel and Button, and that's not particularly worked out well for Perez. Needed that clearer track, as Verne is holding up Kimi Räikkönen. Now, is this Verne... team tactics, if Verne hasn't yet made his pit stop, doing Grosjean a bit of help. Can Kimi get past into the spoon curve? I doubt it. Verne blocking vigorously going into the spoon curve and holding Räikkönen up badly. Holding Räikkönen up nicely if you're a Tornado fan. Now, can Kimi get up the inside going into 130R? No, he can't. Best get back into the slipstream through this corner and possibly have a go going into the chicane. Let's see what line Verne takes. Going for the wider line, so Verne coming into the pits this lap. And there is Grosjean, so he's quite close behind Räikkönen now. 5.6 seconds was the gap between Räikkönen and Verne. Räikkönen and Grosjean. It's 1.8, so Verne has done Grosjean an enormous favour on that particular lap. And Fernando Alonso only 6.7 seconds behind Räikkönen. So Alonso's in the hunt for a very good result as well. Nico Hülkenberg still in 4th position, so he's done quite well to remain there. Robin Freins versus Pastor Maldonado for 10th position, and Paul Di Resta versus Geerder van der Garde for 17th position. There's battles all over the place. I like that. And we're having a look at Jenson Button, currently in 6th position, will be an FJR driver next season to partner a new boy in the form of Kevin Magnussen, making the jump from FF2M. And Vettel very slow. Has he got a problem? Yes, he has, because Button has just shunted into him. Luckily, no damage, but Vettel in massive trouble. Is this a race-ending problem? As we go through the S's, he's got a long, long way to go before the pits. There's nothing displaying on his steering wheel. So, what is going on with the shake and bake of Sebastian Vettel? Jigging the car somewhat. And there's still some decent power. But yeah, this is... Could this be the end of Sebastian Vettel's championship? He's still be in contention with 2 races to go, because no matter what Grosjean, Räikkönen and Verne do, Vettel will still be in with a shot. At worst, he'll be 22 points behind, with 24 on offer, and that's not enough fuel to go to the end of the race either. So he rejoins in 9th, I think, ahead of his teammate Maldonado. Raikkonen's having to deal with some more traffic. That is a Pedersen who needs to get out of the way. Bruno Senna, who doesn't have a drive for next season, unfortunately. But his teammate Kobayashi does, and he'll be driving for Gajera alongside Lewis Hamilton, who will move from FJR. Oh, goodness me, Grosjean and Senna nearly coming to blows as they go into the Degner. And Grosjean is close. Will he be close enough? Vettel making his way back up the field. That's past Lewis Hamilton for the hapless FJR. And now the battle for the lead. The battle for the championship. Raikkonen for Gajera. Grosjean for Tornado. Going through the chicane. Right, left. Onto the curb. Exiting the corner. Grosjean doesn't appear close enough in the slipstream. Gajera's got some grunt. And this is the start of lap 30. 4/10 is the gap. And look at Alonso, just 4.3 behind Raikkonen and Grosjean. So if these two are not careful, it could become a three-way battle for the lead, as Hülkenberg retains 4th, and there's a three-way battle for 5th between Button, Perez and Verne. And look who's in 8th position, Robin Freins in the other Andrew F1. So although Kubica is out of the race, Freins doing a spectacular job. Qualified well, up in 11th position, and he's kept his nose clean. That's a particularly good effort. Must be said that the Andrew F1 has definitely improved as the season has gone along, especially in light of Kubica's win, and fastest lap, and pole position, 2 in a row, even if the Renault engine has become a lot more fragile. Surviving so far for Freins, Hülkenberg and Alguersuari. There's a blown engine in the distance. Who is that? It's Sam Bird in 20th position. Just as I was talking about engines, and Grosjean has got a right run on Kimi Raikkonen going into the 130R. He's got the lead. Roman Grosjean takes the lead from Kimi Raikkonen. That was an incredible run out of the spoon curve, and confirmation of Sam Bird's retirement right there. Now it's Grosjean's turn to be engulfed with Pedersen. And, Kobayashi doing a blocking job on his future team. Guillaume Kramer might not like that too much. Here's Verne doing something similar to Perez. Right into 130R, so simultaneous tornadoes on Gajera action. And I think Verne is going to be at it again, because there is Button at mercy to the sheer speed of Jean-Eric Verne. 5th position for the Tornado driver. And, Button's having to go back at him. Look at him. Interesting. Next target for Verne, the driver right in front of him, Nico Hülkenberg, in 4th position. And now Perez is going to have a look at Button as well. Where's Perez going next season? He's going to Exolite. In fact, Button hanging on round the outside, the feisty Jensen. In fact, both Gajeras moving to Exolites next season, Kimi Raikkonen and Sergio Perez. So that'll be an interesting lineup once again. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the hands of James Whiteley's machine, who'll be running the customer Ilmore engines. Other lineups, we've got GRM. They've hung on to Valtteri Bottas. And an interesting one, Carlos Sainz will be teaming up with him. Only had one season in FF2M. Had a pretty good run in the mid-season, and I think that might have been why GRM wanted the young Spaniard. So there'll be 3 Spaniards on the grid next season. Alguersuari, Alonso and Sainz. Verne versus Hülkenberg going into the spoon curve. There's contact between the two, and Verne just shoves him out of the way very unfairly. Penalties used to exist in FF1M, more infamously when Ralf Schumacher got disqualified for shunting both MRDs out at Monza in a classic moment. That's Button going past... No, it's Perez going past Button for 5th position. So, Sergio Perez. We got 5 championship contenders in the top 5. The other one, Vettel, had that mechanical problem, sadly. Vettel's staying with Shake and Bake, and he'll be joined by Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo struggling with an uncompetitive Willows. Oh, speaking of Vettel, he's having a look at Robin Freins, and that was very easy. Around the outside of the curve before Spoon. Kimi Raikkonen has made his second pit stop. And has he made it before Grosjean? He has. Now, can he do anything? There was a 3.7 second gap between Grosjean and Raikkonen. If Grosjean comes into the pits next lap, then Grosjean might be looking good for the win. Depends how much longer he goes on the fuel and how quickly Raikkonen can go on his outlap. Possible plural. And Alonso's made his second stop as well, as has Button and, well, Vettel has to make another stop. He'll be quite quick on the end, will Vettel? Probably set the fastest lap, like he did in Singapore, as his teammate Pastor Maldonado comes into the pits. And he'll be going to Pedersen next season, and partnering him will be current championship leader and current race leader Romain Grosjean. So Grosjean and Maldonado going for Pedersen. That'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Who else? We got Horizon, we'll have Sutil and Di Resta, and that's Raikkonen putting a lap on the Pedersen as Di Resta comes into the pits. Almost as if I planned that, which I promise you I did not. But Sutil and Di Resta with Horizon. Who else have we got? Tornado, they'll keep Verne. And a driver will be coming back to FF1M in the form of Sebastian Buemi. Hasn't had a drive this season because, well, it was actually Verne and Buemi who teamed up with each other for GRM in the 2012 season, and afterwards we never saw out of Buemi again, until now. He'll be back next season. And one more driver lineup to mention, Andrew F1. That will be Robert Kubica remaining with them, and another returning driver. A welcome return, actually, because last time he was in FF1M, he had 2 wins for Guy Racing, and it's the popular little Brazilian Felipe Massa. Welcome back to him. And that should be a pretty interesting lineup as well. That was the lineup of FJR back in the 2009 season, and they had shocking reliability. Couldn't get the KERS working at all. I remember that very well. As, Kimi Raikkonen trying to put a lap on one of the GRMs, he's desperate to close that gap between himself and Grosjean, who hasn't pitted still. 19.9 seconds, 20.6. Ooh, needs a bit more than that, does Kimi. But this is a fascinating point of the race now. Raikkonen on his fresh tyres, pushing as hard as he can, and Grosjean just letting the fuel go down a little bit. And Grosjean better be careful, because Fernando Alonso is not that far behind Raikkonen either. So they need to bring Grosjean in sooner rather than later. Now, is he going to come in the pits this lap? There's more traffic for Raikkonen. That's an FJR that he is about to lap. I presume that it's going to be Van der Garde. Looks like it as we round the hairpin, as Grosjean finally comes into the pits. Did have an extra lap, but looks like Tornado have responded to the pace of Raikkonen. Into his pit box goes the little Frenchman. And it's a 7.2 pit stop. Now, is that Raikkonen going down the start-finish straight? Indeed it is. And he's taken the lead from Grosjean. So those laps that Raikkonen have done, and Alonso has taken Grosjean as well. So that has cost Grosjean dearly. No other word for it, it's just dearly. But now Grosjean is on the fresh tyres. Significant. Oh, Hulkenberg's out of the race. Another reliability problem for the Mitchell. Except this time it's a loose wheel. So you can't really blame that on the Renault engines this time. But yet another retirement. 6 from 7. And that is the sheer pace of Romain Grosjean and his new tyres. Because just closed the gap inexorably on Alonso. It was 8 tenths. And it's going to be Grosjean in front of Alonso if the move is successful going into 130R, and he's got him. So Grosjean instantly back up to second position. So he's having to work for it. But work for it he is doing. Now then, let's see how quickly he can close this gap to Raikkonen. There's 10 laps to go, and I saw a brief glance of it was 4.6 seconds as they crossed the first sector, or it might have been the second sector, through the chicane. What will the gap be as they exit this lap? It was 4.6 seconds in the second checkpoint. It's 4.5 seconds. So, this is the pivotal point of the race as Alguersuari has a go at Rosberg. That's for 10th position. Just behind them is Maldonado. And Vettel has made his third pit stop and is pretty lonely out there. He's 22 seconds behind Perez and 10 seconds ahead of Freins. But at least Vettel can have some fun on his new tyres. But how different it could have been had he not had that reliability problem. So, this is Verne versus Button, and that was easy peasy, lemon squeezy going into the 130R, 4th position for the other Frenchman. Oh, Button's not taking that line down, and he's taken Verne immediately. And Verne locking up in frustration as well. Now then, 5 laps to go. Raikkonen only 1.3 seconds ahead of Grosjean now as they round the Dunlop curve. Let's see the gap as they cross the first checkpoint. It'll be a bit less than that. It's 9/10 of a second. This is going to be a thrilling conclusion to the Japanese Grand Prix. It looked like Gojira had outfoxed Tornado on strategy, but Tornado have got good tyres and Grosjean is putting them to extremely good use. I think this corner's called 300R, and then into the spoon curve. Devilishly difficult corner, very quick entry, not quite as quick second part, but still fairly quick, even though it's one of the slower corners on the circuit, probably 3rd slowest corner, maybe 4th slowest if you count the second Degner. Through the ultra quick 130R go the top 2. Only 2 points separating these two in the championship, of course, with Grosjean the advantage. If it stays like this, it'll be a 2-point lead for Kimi Raikkonen. The gap is just 0.4 of a second now, with just 4 laps to go. Could be 5 laps to go. I tend not to read the lap counter too seriously, and there's a horizon in front of them. It's Adrian Sutil, because Sam Bird had that water leak. Grosjean's right up behind the gearbox now of Raikkonen as they go through the Dunlop curve, with Toyota sponsoring. Toyota not in this season, of course, because, well, after a war of words with Mitchell, Lawnmower Gate, Flymo Gate. Into the hairpin, not really an overtaking spot. Grosjean just waiting until the 130R, because it's the exit of the spoon curve that appears to be the best place to overtake. But Grosjean's going to try going into the spoon curve. Going into the spoon curve! What a move from Grosjean! Brilliantly taking the lead from Kimi Raikkonen. Didn't need to wait until the straight. Just went for it straight away, and Grosjean back in the lead once again. Now he's got this horizon to deal with, but once he deals with it, I suspect Grosjean will be able to hold on to the lead. And indeed, he's done just that. Now then, rounding the hairpin, this is the final lap. Alonso's dropped back, he's settled for 3rd position. And there's a battle for 4th position going on between Button and Verne. It was only 0.3 of a second as the two started the lap. Perez quite lonely in 6th. Vettel similarly lonely in 7th. And Freins hanging on to that final point. Good drive from him as well. But just a few more corners to go for Romain Grosjean now. That's one of them. Only 3 more to go now as they round as he rounds the Casio triangle. That's 2 of them gone. Green flag waving from the marshal. And rounding the final corner, Grosjean takes possibly the most important win of his career. Splendid race from him. The Tornado crew made him work for it. Looked as if he'd lost it after the second pit stop, but... Jenson Button's off the circuit! Now, has there been a collision between himself and Verne? It's going to be interesting to see on the replay if that's the case. No, it's a puncture, so Jenson Button's tyres gave up on him. Wow, that's fascinating. Not quite as fascinating as the upcoming championship battle, though. It'll be a 6-point gap between Grosjean and Raikkonen, and Kimi himself extending his lead over Jean-Eric Verne. And look at that, 5, all 6 championship contenders in the top 6. Seems very fitting somehow. Somehow Vettel's still in the championship hunt, even considering his race. Very unlikely that he'll make a challenge though, but you never know in this game. Still in with a mathematical chance. And rounding out the points finishers, Frines gets 7th position, and Alguersuari completes the top 8. So, Renault engines held out well for Frines and Alguersuari, the number 2s. Poor old Robert Kubica. There's his engine failure. First retirement of the race. Others Sandberg and Nico Hulkenberg. And then the late puncture for Button. That looks as if it was the 130R as well, so that's very unlucky. And no fastest lap for Vettel despite his later pit stop. It went to Romain Grosjean because he had younger tyres than Raikkonen, and the Tornado is a damn good car. Both Pedersens rounding out the field. Björn van der Gaard 17th. There's the championship table. Perez is now out of it, as is Alonso, so it's now whittled down from 6 to 4. Grosjean has the advantage though. 6 points, the gap between himself and Raikkonen. Verne on 79 points, 14 points behind Grosjean. And Vettel 19 points behind. So Vettel still in with a chance, but he'll need a miracle. And in the Constructors' Championship, it's pretty much a 2-horse race now between Tornado and Gajera. Just 20 points the gap between those two. Tornado can quite easily wrap it up at the next round. That'll be coming to you from the United States Circuit. Circuit of the Americas. Exolite very comfortable in 3rd position. It looks as if they've secured that. And Shake and Bake 4th. And we will indeed see you for the penultimate round of the season, coming to you from a brand new circuit. Circuit of the Americas. We shall see you then.